good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Campbell Talk. And today we have a phenomenal person who will be joining us to talk about HIV in the Black community, what we can do, what we can learn from the past, and how we can apply those things to help us to be better as we move forward into the future. We have Leisha McKinley-Beach, and she is going to be joining us next. So, invite a few people to come on in the room. It's your opportunity to ask questions, share your comments and thought. This is a group process, y'all. A group process. We are a community, and let us, it's us helping us. We need to do that so this way we can survive, right? We need you to be part of the process. And so we're inviting you to join us in this process. So smash that like button and smash that share button and invite some other folks to join us in this conversation. We will be right back after this intro. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Richardo.
Really appreciate you. Um, so, welcome to the show. Welcome to Campbell Talk. And so, tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump on in and start having conversation.
Sure. I'm Leisha McKinley-Beach, National HIV Consultant. I've been working in HIV for the past 32 years. This is my retirement year, and so I'm always honored to be able to share stories and history of Black people's contribution to HIV.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So, like all of this month, we're celebrating Black History Month. So, ashe to the our ancestors who've gone before us. And, we stand on the shoulders of greatness. And every day we have to keep moving forward and we have to take our people with us because together we can get it done. Together we can get where we need to go. um, no man is an island unto himself.
Very
So,
true.
let's huddle together, let's pull together. We are under attack. So, in our own homes, right?
Yes.
So we have to really start pulling together, and not on the level of utilizing those things that people have taught us and then use it to dismantle us as a community. But let's really dig deep and find common grounds in which we can create our own space, create our own ideas, and use that to move us forward.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer that so much of the work that we do, it's never effective in a silo of one. When we talk about HIV and its impact on Black communities, we are not just talking about Black women or Black same gender loving men. We are talking about Black people. And we don't get to the end of the epidemic without us looking collectively at how we achieve that. And I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but you kind of you hit the nail on the head talking about this is a collective process. What impacts you, Richardo, should also impact me. When
Hmm.
we're talking about solutions and strategies to overall health care for Black people, that should be an investment or a focus for us all.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, if we we've seen time and time again where our community gets divided because we allow people to divide us as a community and as a people. And so, until where is it? It was FUBU back in the day, for us by us. We have to kind of like bring that back a little bit, right? And also the essence of like SOS. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we SOS is Sisters Organizing to Survive. So we have to kind of like bring that back and just say, it's us organizing to survive. Um,
Absolutely.
and we come in many shapes, color, and sizes, and all of that. We have black folks from America, black folks from the Caribbean. It's just, I mean, I live here, but I was born in the Caribbean. I was raised in the Caribbean half my life, and I identify as a Caribbean person, and I also identify as a black person, and I've lived in America long enough to identify as an American. So
Mm-hmm.
we have multiple ways of how we identify and associate with different groups and communities, but the core of who we are is still black.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the reasons why I don't use the term African American. If you've noticed me or you've followed me, you know that I always use the term Black because one, Black is more inclusive.
Mhm.
And as we talk about Black health in America, they've grouped us all together anyway, right? And so we need to be looking at strategies and models for how we are addressing the healthcare needs, the HIV needs of Black people across the diaspora. And so that's a request from me to our public health officials, our advocates, people who are on the front line. Um, we have the model of showing how important it is for us to be united, not divided. And so, even as this month we acknowledge National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, we're talking about the HIV needs of Black people across the diaspora in the United States.
Absolutely. And the need doesn't change. I mean, there might be some different approaches to how we deal with those needs, but the needs are kind of like all the same all around. Healthcare, HIV, housing, employment, you know, racial bias and injustice, you know, and we have to get better at really coming together and demanding, you know, that we get the things that we need to get in order for our community to continue to survive. And if we allow folks to continue to take and take and take, I believe someone said the the history that they're trying to prevent us from teaching our own black kids, even now as we're living this history that we're living now, if they're allowed to do that, our kids and grandkids may never get to see or know this part of the history that we're living now. So it's important that we be present and aware.
Absolutely. And it's also important that we continue to find ways, right? Continue to find ways to ensure that our children get our history and they know our history. I don't need a ruling or an executive order that says, well, we won't be teaching this in school because my daughter always got Black history at home as well. And that was important to me. It's important that we ensure that our young people know where we've come from, who we are and the excellence, the stock that they are a part of. That's why it's always so important for me that as we talk about National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, which is the most important HIV observance for me. And so let me put that out there, Ricardo. Uh, I'm gonna work extremely hard next month for National Women and Girls Day, because I think that it is also important that we continue to uplift what is happening with HIV among women.
Hmm.
But before I am a woman, I am a Black woman. And that's why this observance is so important. This is an opportunity for us to tell our story, right? It's an opportunity to let people know that Black people were not just recipients of HIV services. We have been on the front lines. We have been pioneers. We have built legacies. And this younger generation of leaders that are operating right now, I have no doubt that they will get us to the end of the epidemic. Now, will it be easy? Absolutely not. They're going
Right.
to have to face some of the challenges that you already mentioned, right? How are we talking about ending an HIV epidemic with racism in a public health system that we can't end without the inclusion of our public health system? You know,
Yep.
how are we talking about the end without talking about the social determinants of health, from housing to lack of health care insurance, to poverty, to low paying jobs? All of those things play a factor in our focus and our efforts to end the HIV epidemic. So we don't get the luxury to just talk about sexual health and not talk about poverty,
Yep.
because they intersect for us.
Absolutely.
And it is so important that we're also uplifting all of these other issues that are impacting, slowing, and delaying our progress to the end of the epidemic.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, is that we have so many intersectionalities that it is just, it's hard. I know sometimes people sit back and say, "Hey, you just focus on this and focus on that," but you can't, you know? And it's just kind of like, if you have a single mom who wants to get tested and she has to work, 9 to 5, but most of the places are closed by 5 p.m. Where is she going to go? She's not going to know her status. She is either going to have to call out of work to go get tested, and then who's going to watch Ray Ray and them? Who's going to watch the kids? And it's, she has to take her kids with her. And if she does find a place that's open, are they accepting of saying, okay, your kids can run around and make a little bit of mess, we'll clean it up, don't worry about it, or I'll watch your child for you while you get tested, you know,
Right.
different things like that. So we have to make sure that we have the resources. So while we're on that, um, what do you think it will take, or what do you think it will take for us to end the HIV epidemic?
Well, I think that there are a couple of things. I read a study. This might have been maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where the researchers were making some projections, and they were basically saying, is it possible for us to end the HIV epidemic by the projected time, which is 2030? And the response came back yes and no. That there are some communities that are on track to end the epidemic by 2030, such as white men. But there are some communities that not only will we not end it by 2030, we will be well into 2040. And this was pre COVID, by the way. So this study is pre-COVID. And the justification or the rationale for it was a lot of the things that we've already talked about. If we are not factoring in why we got the disparity of HIV in Black communities in the first place, right? And so if we're not talking about housing, and if we're not talking about um lack of access or no health insurance or poor health insurance, if we're not talking about the fact that when we go into healthcare settings, oftentimes we're not offered the prevention options that other communities are. And think about that. You and I go into the same healthcare facility as Bob, and they talk to Bob about pre-exposure prophylaxis, but they don't talk to us about it because there's already been, the provider has made some assumptions about us, that Leisha is less likely to be adherent to her medication, so you don't even inform me that
Mm-hmm.
this is available for me, right? And so we have to be looking at how, way before we start talking about individual responsibility, we got to be looking at the systemic structures that are making it difficult for us to even be having a conversation about ending HIV in Black America by 2030.
And that's also where the racism creeps in and the injustice creeps in, because then people look at you and say, I remember having a conversation a few years ago, and I said to we were talking about um, a website that's popular that a lot of people get their information from. And I remember the person commented on it and said, I just don't understand why black and brown people don't get it, because the information is right there in black and white. And I said, yeah, but it's all of the information is accompanied by Caucasian individuals. And I said, look at even the Zika announcement. It's, it's white folks in their yards and it's all about Zika. And I said, well, black people own homes. We have yards too. We need to know about this. And so it got into a big conversation about, information over race, and race doesn't have an impact in that whole situation. And I said, okay, fine. So tomorrow, let's rid the website of all of the white faces, put only black faces, and then tell me if you won't notice. If tell me if there will if the emphasis will still be the same.
Hmm.
And then it was like, oh yeah, you're right. And so I think there's this thing, I don't know where it comes from, but it's like people, it's like I started telling folks a long time ago, I'm not going to go through 400 years of history to tell you why this is impacting me as an individual or impacting my community. Because if the shoe was on the other foot, it would have never been a question.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure that we understand how race and inequities and inequalities impact how services are delivered, the systemic issues that create these spaces where people who look like you and I don't even get asked those questions.
Exactly.
And so that's actually a great segue into our next question, is like, what can black and indigenous people of color do as individuals or families towards addressing HIV in our own communities?
Number one, we have to be educated. And it's programs like this that give us an opportunity to learn more about HIV, to hear what's happening on the landscape about HIV. And then when you get it, don't keep it to yourself. You share that information with others. You find out that there are places where you can be tested for free after 5 p.m. Then you share that information with somebody else. right? So that they can benefit from that. So that's one thing. The other thing is, and it's interesting because this is a term that folks are now saying, "Oh, we don't empower people," which I tend to disagree with. Uh, you have the power. The people who are listening to us, we have power. But when we get educated and motivated, that's the E and the M for me in that power. When we
Hmm.
get educated and motivated, we are now empowered and equipped to go in and be advocates for our own health care. My daughter recently had a health visit and explained to the clinician that she couldn't take pills. The clinician said to her, "You need to grow up." Now, why didn't she tell me that while we were still at the site? Because that was about to turn into cultural humility 101.
Hmm.
She was wise. Maybe it was wise. I don't know. I'm still a little salty about it, but she was wise to wait till we got home, and then she told me about it. So you already know that now I'm going to the client satisfaction portal and express my concern about your incompetence. You're not hearing what your client, your customer is telling you. Your
Hmm.
customer is saying this healthcare plan that you solely have developed for me doesn't work for me. We are supposed to be partners in this process. You think about if you went to a restaurant, a nice steakhouse, Richardo, and you tell them that well done doesn't work for me, and then they say to you, well, you need to get some stronger jaw muscles and eat it because that's the only way we gonna cook it. the,
Right.
the restaurant would be closed down
Hmm.
because customers would say, "This is my money," right?
Hmm.
And when I'm paying for the quality or the way I want something cooked or prepared for me, that's the expectation I have to receive it.
Yep.
That's the same thing with our healthcare, and that's why I'm an advocate for us to continue to educate and empower people, give them what they need, so when they go in there and you hear something like that, your response is, "I appreciate your medical expertise, but I'm the expert over all of this body."
Hmm.
Right? And I am telling you, I cannot take a pill. So what are my options? So can we convene and come together and determine the best health strategy for me?
Right.
But culturally, oftentimes we feel like, well, the doctor knows best. If
Hmm.
if they just tell me to grow up, I might choke to death, but it won't be because I didn't try to be adherent to the medicine.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's there's a cultural piece to it where I don't it's been passed down where we just kind of like accept it, right? The doctor says A, it's A, even if it's killing us, even if it's causing other problems. And so now we have to ask questions, and we need to hold providers accountable for the things that they say, the things that they're doing, because if we don't, then they continue to do it, and it continues to affect our community.
Yes, absolutely. I was reading a research study by the late great Dawn Smith, who is our mother of prep, and a part of her research, she looked at the percentage of clients who had seroconverted, so newly diagnosed individuals with HIV. And they found out that a significant percentage of those individuals had seen a doctor within the past 6 months before they serial converted. And so it leads you to question, while I was there was a missed opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to talk to me about prevention methods or strategies and what might have been available to me in the clinic that day.
And some
So,
information doesn't go. Some providers don't even go far enough. They go part of the way and then they turn back. I was just talking to a young black gay man, and we were talking about prep, and he said, I did ask my provider once about prep. Well, actually, he said I need a new provider, and I was like, oh. And he's like, because I asked him once about prep, and he said, oh yeah, you can get prep, but they ran his insurance and no one even followed up to say, hey, let's put you through the Gilead program. Let's offer you the copay card or the copay assistance or whatever the case is so you can get this medication because you're at this level of risk for acquiring HIV. And it turns into this whole thing where he's like, okay, I guess I won't be able to get it. And I'm like,
and that's the part though about empowering folks, right? And so yes, if it's there and it's available for me and my insurance won't cover it, what other options do I have? Like, I'm just not walking out this door and the conversation or the dialogue has started. You're gonna have to tell me something other than my insurance won't cover it. But the challenge is we're facing two uphill battles. And before I respond to that, Ricardo, if there are people who are watching us, if you've got questions or comments or amen, this has happened to me, we want to hear it. Put it in the chat or whatever system that you're using. I just need to know I'm not out here by myself. There's somebody else and had these experiences.
yep.
But the two battles, these two uphill battles that we're facing, one is cultural, right? I remember being at a doctor's visit with my grandmother years ago, and she was so uncomfortable about me questioning the doctor. In her mind, that they see that as a black person being arrogant. Oh, she got a little education and now she's questioning what I'm giving you. And there was a fear, right?
Mhm.
Now they're going to give me the wrong medicine as a way to put you in your place. And so, although great life lessons that she taught me, that's one that we need to be teaching this generation. You don't go just by what a clinician tells you about your health care. We have to play active roles in that. But number two, Miss Beach, you telling me to play an active role, but I don't know how. I don't know how to do that.
Right.
And that's why, Ricardo, what you're doing about educating people and keeping folks informed becomes so critical, so that when I do go in there, I might not know the correct term, the patient's assistance program, but I do know that it's some kind of program that
Mhm.
can help pay for my medication.
That's it. And if they don't know, or they're not, or they say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, or whatever the case is, ask for them to refer you to somebody who can explain it to you or who can explain how the program works. That there is a program to help pay for this. Who do I need to talk to? And if you don't have it here, can you refer me to somebody else who I can talk to? And if they still are having problems, you can reach out to us at Campbell Health Solutions and we'll definitely be helping you. So, and you don't have to be here in the state of Florida.
That's
So,
awesome. I love it.
we'll direct you to whoever you need to. I know a couple of people in different states, so we'll connect you and you navigate and get you to what you need. So, yeah, absolutely. The other thing is we're talking about navigating folks and all of that is that there are resources that, funding, you know, in kind items that are either given or donated or, are planned or distributed to different states, different counties to provide resources on the local level to help to help fund programs and services. And then, the resources are either given to the larger agencies or given to the predominantly white agencies, and then it doesn't really match up, right? And so you're like, okay, these agencies are in this community working with the folks who are greater risk for HIV, but they're not getting the funding. It's going to the other folks who have other programs in other places that are not really focused on Black folks. So it's like, how do we deal with the race, with the inequities in resources that are given either locally or statewide or nationally?
That is a fantastic question. And you're getting to, again, this discriminatory process in terms of grant making to Black led organizations. And I always caution our community about co signing on the term minority. It has its place. But when we start looking at funding and we are all inclusive of minority, and then funders say, well, 70% of the funds went to minority led organizations. It just so happened that only one of them was Black. So we have to be hip to these systems as well and how that's playing out. Do I believe that there is a place for Black led organizations? Absolutely, I do. And for those of you who may not understand that term, Black led means that the executive leadership of that organization is led by Black people. A few years ago, I had an organization, executive director, reach out to me and said, wow, I heard, some of the comments that you made, and maybe you don't know that our agency has changed. Like 70% of our staff is Black. And just pause for a moment. When you hear that, it might lead you to believe, like, wow, look at them. They've done an amazing turnaround trying to connect with our community. 70% of the agency is Black. And I'm like, thank you. I'm glad some of us are getting a check from your agency, but that's not where I'm focused. What is the race or ethnicity of the CEO, of the financial director, of your program administrator, of the program directors, the
Mm-hmm.
folks that can make the decisions? Because, see, now we're talking about where the gaps are. Your frontline staff, and again, those folks are doing a phenomenal job. Why? Because they come from the communities where they live, work, play, and worship. Don't nobody have to tell them or educate them about how to connect with folks in the communities that they're already engaged with.
Right.
But when you get to those decision makers who are not from those communities, they don't understand and oftentimes give great pushback when you want a program called sister instead of sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not grammatically correct. I don't understand why you would need a program called that. Well, if you were a part of the community that we were serving, that question never would have occurred. Right. And so we have to have some pushback and not just with community led, Richardo, but also with our health departments. One of my recent projects has been the creation of the Black Public Health Academy. And the reason, oh, I see Anshay. Hello, Anshay. So good to see you. He says of all U.S. public health organizations, 6% have Black CEOs.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
if we pause right there for a moment and you think about 6%, let's just take that fact. And I'm coming back to my Black Public Health Academy for my free service announcement. But let's take Anshay's stat and let's just focus it on HIV, right? Let's say if this was an HIV stat, 6% of all of our HIV organizations, only 6% had Black CEOs, but we represent 42% of new HIV diagnoses.
mm,
Do you see? There's something wrong with that picture. And we can take any health issue and we will see that there is an overrepresentation of Black staff at lower levels, the
mm-hmm,
outreach workers, the disease intervention specialists, the health educators. And there is extreme underrepresentation with the chief executive officer, the chief financial officers, those decision makers, the commissioners of health, the surgeon generals. And so that's why I've created the Black Public Health Academy. And this first phase of the academy is designed to focus on Black people that are already in health departments that desire to advance to these leadership positions, because it is so much more for us than just presenting that I have a bachelor's or a master's degree and that I've got 3 to 5 years experience in public health. It's way more than that. And so helping people understand, how to navigate through we're going with the most qualified candidate. And what does that advocacy look like for you when you hear that term? Understanding the politics of the work that we do,
mm-hmm,
right? Because we got people like myself and like you that have passion and great heart to do the actual public health work. But the higher up the ladder you go in health departments, it becomes less about the actual health and it becomes more about the politics and the policies,
mm-hmm,
right? And so, how do I get prepared to make that adjustment and shift as I go up the ladder? And then, how do I still remain true to the reason why I wanted to be in the leadership position in the first place when I get there? And so that's what the Black Public Health Academy is going to do for health department staff. I do not apologize that it is called the Black Public Health Academy. I have been getting these comments since NBAD, National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day, when I started promoting it. Why couldn't it be the Minority Public Health Academy? Why couldn't it be, whatever? It is called what it's supposed to be called. I am unapologetic
mm-hmm.
about wanting to take the life lessons, professional experience that I have had over these 32 years and invested into Black health department employees who say, I want to be in higher level positions. I don't apologize for that.
And we know, and it's easy to say minority, but when you look at it, there are folks who identify as a minority because it's socially acceptable and it makes sense. But when time comes for them to put their cards on the table, then they say, "Oh wait, but I'm white,"
Mm-hmm.
and then the minority fades. And so, I understand. This is for the people who show up every day black. And having worked in the health department system, I know at one point I applied for a supervisory position, and when the person who was in that position before they retired, it required a master's level to apply. I had 2 years before he retired. I went back, I got my master's, and then when time come for the position to be posted, that requirement changed because it needed to let more people in. And then it was, got to the whole interview process, and then I was told that I didn't get the job. So I inquired to find out why. I was told, oh, I had no supervisory experience. And I said, wait, I've demonstrated that I've had tons of experience supervising, hiring, training, and working with staff at different levels of in different areas throughout my career over the last 20 years. So for you to just say I don't have any experience, you have to be a little bit more specific. Well, you don't have any experience supervising within the health department system. And so I then said, well, allow me to ask this question. Have the health department ever provided a space
Mhm.
for people to gain the supervisory skill necessary to supervise the department? Or do we just usually hire them right into that position or promote them into that position and figure it out as we go along? And
And
then and everyone was tongue tied at that point.
exactly. Why? Because you were equipped with the information to ask the questions that make it a little more difficult for the next person to be left out of
Mhm.
that qualified pool. And it is hearing you talk about that, and I know this is now past, but it still angers me, right? I'm like, it seems like you get the requirements and then they raise the bar a little higher, or the requirements change. Oh, now, oh, he got the master's degree. Well, now we need you to have supervisory experience. Oh, you got some supervisory experience? Well, we need you to have supervisory experience in HIV. Oh, you got supervisory experience in HIV? Oh, we need you to have supervisory experience in HIV for people who live in zip code 30309,
Mhm.
served on Tuesday after 5 p.m.
Right.
There's a model where you see why we no longer talk about equality, because now folks can say, well, Leisha and Richardo could both apply. Nothing is prohibiting them from applying. So that's now we can check the box for equality, because we got the right to apply. But
Hmm.
here's the issue with now the equity. Because
Hmm.
if you're the one, if I really got my eye on the person I want in the position, then I make all of these issues or these qualifications so difficult. You must have 15 years of experience in HIV to apply,
Hmm.
right? The folks that we're talking about might not have that many years of experience, but the impact that they have, right, on the communities where they need to be is vast. But those types of strategies then let me know, okay, well, they may have someone that they already want for the position, and the academy teaches you that. Looking at the job description, you learn how to dissect that. What could the message be, even with the job description? Was it written in with the intent of already hiring somebody that they want to hire, but they just got to go through this process?
Right. I think a lot of it turns out that they have to do a process to make it seem fair, even
Mm-hmm.
though people are pre-selected, and it happens
Mm-hmm.
all up and down the state.
Yep.
But and so it's they on the surface it seems like it's fair, but really and truly it isn't. And
Mm-hmm.
And most people, if you've never interacted with the state system, you don't really
Mhm.
understand how the game is played. And
Mhm.
so you think that you're doing everything that you, because I mean, I was well prepared. I went in, I asked for my supervisor's job description because I wanted to cross all the things off that I already knew how to do and the things that I needed to learn in order to function in that role. It gave me enough time for me to say, let me look for some external resources so I can learn these tools, and also let me find out internally if I can shadow, if I can sit in, if I can observe, so this way I can learn those tools in addition to working on my own personal stuff and
Mhm.
getting my job done every day. So when you get to that culmination of that process and they're like, oh, you didn't get it because of this on this day at that time and the sun was setting
Yeah.
and and you're looking at them like I'm I may look very simple, but I'm not stupid.
Exactly, exactly. There's a
Yeah.
question in the chat from one of our viewers that asks, how do we hold health departments accountable when this happens? The first thing that I would advise any of our employees within our health department systems is become familiar with HR. You need to know them and they need to know who you are, because oftentimes if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
Hmm.
And even if the HR director doesn't come to you and say, oh no, that this shouldn't have happened, because let's be clear, let's be very clear that as a part of this system's structure, you got to be your own advocate. So, for unless it's something that's blatant discriminatory, you may not get the response from HR that you need. But I will tell you who will have a conversation with HR, and that's the hiring director.
Hmm.
They'll pull their coattail to say, hey, someone who applied for this job raised some concerns that this practice or whatever appears to exclude people who could meet the eligibility criteria. You might want to let us see your next job posting right before that comes through or whatever. But it does raise awareness. Now, let me say this: when you do that, and this is why it is so important to have the support system, whether it is a few folks internally, whether it is spaces like the Black Public Health Academy. You got to recognize that when that happens, then you become looked at a little bit closer.
Hmm.
You be watched a little bit harder, and so understand what comes along with that. But I also am going to know what defines a hostile work environment, what defines bullying, and all of those other things more than I even know my program, right? So that when those issues occur, then I actually have the policies of the department on my side.
And you also have, and I post the link inside the chat here, you also
Yes.
have the EEOC, the Equal Employment Office, am I saying Opportunity Commission. And
Mhm.
so you want to make sure that you reach out to them. And if they will do their investigation and they will find whether or not you say, you know what, I'm leaving, and you quit, or you don't quit, this whether you get fired or you quit, the investigation still goes on. And if they find fault with that, then that gives you grounds for you to be able to bring a lawsuit. And
Mhm.
so you want to make sure that you follow and stay consistent.
Absolutely. And see, and these are the things that um, we are often educated on when we start our public health careers.
Hmm.
Because a lot of the things I ended up having to learn the hard way, nobody has schooled me on you have the right to file this complaint. Right when the bullying happened, you should have immediately reported it to EEOC.
Yeah.
I didn't know all of those things, but I know
Mhm.
now,
Right.
right?
And
I
me
know
too.
now. And so for these younger public health professionals, I
Mhm.
want to make sure that they don't have to go through some of those challenges, because it can feel very alone, very stressful, very isolated, especially now that you're singled out, because you're standing up for what is right, what you believe to be true.
And that could mean that you get passed around to a different supervisor.
Yep.
You get, and that has happened to me. I got switched from my supervisor to another supervisor who had nothing to do with my program, nothing to do with the job that I was hired for, nothing to do with the responsibilities that was given to me based on the function I was filling. And
Mhm.
so, sometimes you learn certain things as you go and recognize that, you have to really dot all your I's and cross all your
Yep.
T's, and make sure that you don't create or give an opportunity for people to point a finger at you,
That's
because
right.
then they will use that one thing and put it in there. And don't be disillusioned that other folks within the department are working together to collaborate, to what's that word, collude
Mhm.
against you,
In cahoots.
and
Mhm.
corroborate stories to make sure it is a very real thing. And if you've worked in the system long enough, you have an idea of how that works. And so I think that what you're doing, Leisha, is great. I want to pause here for a minute just to say, because I know we're running out of time, and I just want to pause here for a minute just to say we've been talking about HIV and STDs, and how we can address inequities and inequalities within the HIV system. So, for those of you who don't know, HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus, and AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. And so basically, you cannot get HIV from hugging, kissing, sharing the same cups, using the same toilet, taking the same shower. All my Caribbean people who are bleaching down the showers, we need to stop doing that. After your loved one, it's very stigmatizing for your loved one who's living with HIV to take a shower, and then you're bleaching
Yes.
down the bathroom.
Yes.
So we have to stop doing that. And also, HIV is transmitted through sexual contacts, not unprotected sexual contact, from mother to child, to breast milk, or from sharing needles. And so we want to make sure that we get the facts. We get the facts, we get the knowledge, so we can end stigmatizing behavior, so we won't stigmatize our family and friends who are living with HIV. And so this way we can all march together as a community. Let's provide support, let's provide resources. And if you know someone who's living with HIV, needs to get into care, needs to get in treatment, or even anyone who needs to get HIV tested, and you live in the Palm Beach County area, please give us a call. I'm going to have that information scrolling on the bottom in a second. So please give us a call, get your free HIV test, or go to our website at www.campbellhealth.org. Um, so back to you, Leisha.
No, all of this was great, great information. I feel like if folks can't walk away but with one thing, Ricardo, it is, let's dispel some of those myths.
Hmm.
Let's provide education with at least one fact that you can share with somebody else. And Ricardo just gave you several facts that you can share with what you just learned about HIV prevention. And I want to leave you with one fact, that the one thing that each of us can do, and that is to know our own HIV status. We are all a part of an HIV spectrum. There are those of us who may fall as on the spectrum is needing HIV prevention, and there are those of us who may fall on the spectrum as needing HIV care and treatment. But we're all on the spectrum somewhere. So learning your HIV status lets you know the services that you would need while you're on the spectrum. And finally, I posted in the chat the GoFundMe link, as I am still raising money for our Black Public Health Academy until the end of the month. So, 8 more days left for the fundraiser. To launch the academy on May 1st. I'm really, really excited about that, and would love to have you listed as a Black wealth investor, because Black health is Black wealth for us.
Yep. Awesome. So as we're going to, we're pushing up on time, but we have a few minutes left. So can you talk a little bit about, and guys, the GoFundMe is on the screen right now. Click that, make a donation, support Leisha, and I'm sure there will be other opportunities too, and to learn about how you can continue to support this mission that she's on. Um, and it's for us by us. So
Absolutely.
think we if we can make sure that our Black public health folks are educated and have the resources and the support that they have, then when they get into those spaces, then we can kind of like start to see equity happening.
Yes.
And so but we need to make sure that they can get there. So on the way out, as we're about to go, um, can we talk? I had, oh my God, I just lost it. um, I guess it's more of kind of like, where did it go? How can we motivate, like, speak as how do we motivate people towards going and getting tested and knowing their status? Because I know, like, there's social media stuff, there's all the agencies all over the place and all of that stuff, but like, how can we really speak to you, the viewers? you know what do you think?
I would say to the viewers, you deserve to know.
Mm,
You are so you we center everybody and everything else, but I want to speak directly to you. You deserve to know your HIV status. And there are some organizations out there that want to help you get that information. Ricardo posted, those of you who are local in Palm Beach, contacts where you can find that information. Also, he can connect you with places all over the country where you can find out, learn about your own HIV status. And when you do it and you talk about it, that's your contribution to our community. That's your contribution to ending HIV stigma. As a married woman, I still get tested every year. And my sexual partner, who I just happen to have his last name, he gets tested every year. And so that's our contribution to eliminate the stigma from married couples who feel like, well, I'm with her, she with me. We don't need to be tested. No, I need to know my blood sugar levels every year. I need to know my cholesterol level every year, and I need to know my HIV status every year.
and if you are having sex, or if somebody's having sex with you,
Hmm.
you need to know your HIV status.
I love it. I love it. They having sex with you. Yeah.
You're having sex with them, or they're having sex with you, you need to get an HIV test.
Yes.
Leisha, I really appreciate you being on the show tonight. As always, I really appreciate you being who you are, being in this space. and being a phenomenal woman and
Thank
leader.
you.
And I'm excited about what you have coming next. And if you need resources,
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
not a
And I
problem.
just really appreciate what you're doing as well.
Thank you very much. All right, guys, thank you for watching. This is going to be up, so keep liking, keep sharing. Um, invite other folks to join the conversation. We will be here for it. It's not over until the fight is done because we're in it to end it.
And it.
Okay? We're in it to end it. Thank you for watching and see you next week.